Hash Hush and Circle Up.
Welcome to On, the Hash House Harrier podcast for interviews, history, and stories. I'm your host, Ra.
Today, we are in South America with the GM of the most recent new Continental Hash event. Just finished up the first ever PanSoAm in Brasilia. Today on the podcast, a longtime hasher since the 1980s, meet Opulence. Hi, Opulence.
Hi, Ra. Thank you very much for having me and also for coming down for the event and help to make it a success.
Yeah, it was great. Let's tell everybody your hashing origin story. When, where, and how did you get to your first hash?
The first hash I did in 1986 in China, in Guangzhou. I was backpacking with my girlfriend through China. We were one of the first backpackers. They all still ran around in their Mao suit. The French guy who invited us in Guangzhou said, "Hey, you want to come to a hash?" I'm sure everybody heard that before. I said, "No, I'm not into drugs." He said, "No, it has nothing to do with drugs unless you consider beer a drug." We said, "No, I love beer." And I was hooked on it. From then on, wherever I went, I seeked out the hash. And in the old times, you had to go to places, for example, in Penang, where expats hang out, and you saw the notice board, and then there was hash this day, this time, meeting point, and everything. Not as easy as it is now.
You were backpacking in China in the 1980s. That's not something everybody was doing back then. You had been living in some exotic places before that. You were in Iran when you were a teenager, right?
Yes, my parents moved 1974 to Iran. My father got a job as a manager there. I went there to the German school. Unfortunately, I didn't know about the hash. Hazu told me there was a hash at that time. Wonderful time. Iran is a wonderful country, nice people. Unfortunately, a shitty government.
Yeah. Backpacking. How long was your trip in China?
1 year. So we went in August from Germany with the Trans-Siberian Express through Russia and Mongolia into China. That time, there was only one hotel you could stay in Beijing. Wherever you go, you needed a special permit. It was a really interesting time. Looking back, for example, that one adventure I had when we were in the train and we had not mobile phones and we had Walkmans. That was the latest and the best and the greatest. And I gave it to a Chinese girl to listen and she just cried. There are the experiences you had in that time when technology was not there. What I liked on these travels, also 1982, when I went to South America, you didn't have mobile phone devices. You could switch off. You had to talk to the locals. You sat in the bar and you talked to the bar, not to your telephone. So I really enjoyed these old times.
Where did you get the hashing next after China?
In Bangkok, from China, we went to Bangkok and I looked it out there. And then we went to Penang. I looked it up there and went down to Kuala Lumpur and Malacca, Singapore. Wherever I went, I looked up for the hash.
What brought your backpacking year to an end? What happened in your life after that?
We ran out of money and my girlfriend went to Sydney, Australia. I remember when we arrived, we had $20. We slept the first night in the train station and I got the newspaper in the morning and looked for a job, which was a laborer. My girlfriend and I separated then and I found my then wife and then I lived permanently for 28 years in Australia.
What was the hashing like seeing there for you?
To be honest, at the beginning, I didn't really think about the hash because I really had to build up a new life. I also legalized in 19 paintball in Australia because it was illegal. So I formed my own paintball field and I played professionally for 6 years. Went lots of times to America. That's why I know America very well. Aki Shira and Jay Key, they sponsored me with the flights and the hotels. It was a wonderful time. Lots of partying. A bit like the hash, just the paintball community. 1989, I ran with the Bush Rangers in Western Sydney. They ran out of the Australian Air Force Base in Richmond. From there, I joined the Posh Hash, the North Sydney Hash. Yeah, just hashed around. And whenever I went back to Asia, I hashed in Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam. It was just a wonderful community.
The posh hash is men's only.
Yes.
Did you run with the men's only hash there in Bangkok?
I ran with, they have several clubs there. So I can't remember which club, what was the name, but I ran several times there. Yeah.
And did you get involved in mismanagement in Australia?
With the bushrangers, I did, but that was also a very small group. We only were about 7 or 8 people. Lots of time we ran out of our paintball field, which was ideal. I knew the area. So we had some really crazy trails. We ran Monday nights, 8 o'clock start. Afterwards, we had a barbecue always. That's why I got my hash name, because I was sick of the sausages. I always bought my own steaks.
Do you remember who named you and how that went?
No idea. No idea. I got a picture of it somewhere, but I wouldn't know who named me.
Do you remember where you got your first hash t-shirt?
That was in Penang. I had a whole pile of t-shirts, and when I moved from Australia to Brazil, I left a lot of them back because the container was tight.
What kind of skill set, apart from partying and being willing to travel, does it take to be a successful paintballer?
A good team, yeah, a good team. You have individual good players, but if you have a bad team, you can be the best player in the world, you will always lose again.
Interesting. Did you recruit any hashers?
No, they were paintball freaks. No, there was at the
Huh.
beginning, paintball games are now shown on ESPN, and in these times, no, there was no television around. There was.
I've done it just a couple times. Let's talk about when you moved to Brazil. What did you find in terms of hashing?
Before I came to Brazil, I was 3 months in Patagonia, and from there I went to Antarctica. And when I came back to Ushuaia, I said, I'm sick of the cold. I know that girl in Brasilia. I boarded a plane, went to Brasilia, met her, and 3 days after, I found out Brasilia has a hash. So I joined them straight away. And since then, I have a hash to them. Yeah.
Brasilia had started a couple years before you got there?
The first hash was here, founded by English and Australian hashers in 1989. But it went for a while, then it died. It went for a while. The hash I'm in now was founded in 2012. We are proud to still have inbred Fred with us. He was one of the founders of that. When I joined the hash, there were mainly Americans and English from the American embassy. When I permanently moved here 2016, unfortunately, the Americans were all mostly transferred to Egypt and Kuwait in the Middle East. That's when I took over as the hash master.
You found a group that was hashing. Did they have t-shirts? Were they hashing weekly? What was it like before you got there?
They were hashing sporadically. I think that was one of the problems, that they didn't get more people. They were hashing sporadically. They had a hash t-shirt, yes. The only member of our hash which still has one is I lost myself. I gave my one away, stupidly enough. But yeah, now they were organized.
I lost myself as a local. She's a Brazilian, has been hashing a long time then.
Correct.
What about other hashing in South America at that beginning? Did you know about other hashes? We had the internet now. What did you know about South American hashing?
In 2014, I really didn't seek out the hash too much. No, I just came through a messy divorce. I had to sell my house. I just want to get my head clear and just travel. My plan was to travel from 1 year from Antarctica to Arctic. Unfortunately, my wife disturbed it a little.
Oh, okay. What was the situation that had you take leadership, take over and run Brasilia Hash?
To be honest, it was really tough. With about 10 people leaving within 3 months, there was 3 people left really. For a couple of years, we ran with 5, 6 people, but we continued with it. We said every second Sunday, it was Saturday, we switched it on Sunday because Saturday, lots of people with kids couldn't come. And sometimes inbred Fred and I, we said trailer, nobody showed up.
What?
But we were consistent. We said, we have to be consistent. If we stop running this time or that time and people show up, they will never come again.
Yeah. What was the deal with beer in Brazil then? Easy to get? What was the public situation with security? Was it easy? Brasilia is an amazing city. I made it down there, and so it's an amazing city. What kind of places were you setting trail in, and how far afield did you go from main city?
We set trails in the city and outside of the cities. Brasilia is surrounded by the Cerrado, it's in the biome. It's a little bit like Australia, very dry, very dusty, if it doesn't rain in the dry season. But I love it. I think it's really great. The beer situation, you can buy beer everywhere. During the demonstrations we had here 2015, 2016, you see the little street carts running around. Everybody's buying beer. Not a problem at all. Safety-wise, we always say Brasilia is not Brazil. Purposely built city in 5 years. It's very communistic in style. You have to get used because everything looks a bit like the same in the quadras, but it's functional. The only problem we have here is parking, because the city was built for 500,000 people, and now we are the third biggest city in Brazil with 3.3 million or 4.3 million. And it's also a rich city. Here's a lot of lawyers are here, a lot of politicians, a lot of lobby groups. So everything is a bit more expensive in Brasilia than in the rest of Brazil, but it's very safe compared to other parts. That is one thing what we try to address with these the Pan-South America hashes, to show the people that Brazil is not as bad as everybody makes out. Everybody says, the crime, the corruption, okay, it exists. But I just recently saw statistics of the most dangerous cities in the world. And the first city, Rio, comes, I think, on 7th or 8th place. Plenty of American cities which are more dangerous than
Brasilia is different. People not familiar with the geography, it's nowhere near the beach. You're going to have to take another flight if you want to get to the sand. It's just a pleasant place. There was so much to do there. What was the transition out? How long did it take? Were you optimistic once it was you and Fred, sometimes just at the rashes? What was the growth? How did that take place there?
It went very quickly. We just had our hash. Suddenly some Frenchies showed up from the French embassy, and they came from Mexico and was looking up what can be done here. And we are very active here on social media, and they just dropped up with their 2 kids. A month or 2 months later, some Swedish joined us, and they hashed before, so they were very enthusiastic. And then we had some Germans coming, so it literally exploded in a year. Before the pandemic, we had hashes here with over 50 people.
It's a neat thing about a capital city and an international city that very quickly your hash had so many different countries. What about recruiting locals?
We always recruited locals. I think this is why the Brasilia hash is very strong at the moment. We have a good mix of 50-50, 50% locals, 50% expats. I think that's very important, so people don't feel excluded.
How is the culture of Brazil and Brazilians for things like the rowdy songs, the drinking in public? How did that fit in?
Unfortunately, that changed a bit over the years. The rowdy songs in the 80s, 90s, they were accepted as it is. I think the political climate nowadays is very politically correct. You can't do this, you can't do that. You're not with the times. I hear that a lot. We have people coming, especially from the embassies. They come and say, no, I don't like the language. I don't like the songs. Can we change? And I said, this is the hash. This is what we are. But on the other hand, we have people coming, they like it. They think I can switch off here. I can be myself. I don't have to be always careful. I can tell you a very funny story about a Canadian couple which joined us. The first time they came to a hash, the guy had brand new shoes and he said it to me. I said, unfortunately, the rule is you have to drink out of that shoe. Unfortunately, he was military. He took it with a strive. We thought we would never see them again. Never, ever. Because they were very conservative. They were people which went to church. Something you would think would not fit in with the hash. And they hashed it up every time they could. They were around for 2.5 years. They went back to Canada last year. And they told me of the hash made Brasilia livable. It was great to have this. And when they talked about the language, they said, okay, we don't swear, but it's your choice. We don't judge you on that.
That's a neat thing. You can't tell a hasher from appearances and even from outside of the hash lifestyle. But you can tell something about their appearances from our clothing. Did you start designing the Brasilia hash t-shirts soon after you got there?
When we started to get more money, then I started designing the t-shirts. It's quite funny. The first design I brought forward and showed to the group, I learned very quickly not to do it. They call me in the hash here the dictator, which is a bit true, but if you want to get every opinion on a shirt, you never get it done. I learned very quickly, do the design, keep in mind what you want to reflect with it, like with this Brasilia shirt, which I designed for this event. I wanted to reflect Brazil, I want to reflect Brasilia, but also the hash.
So your hash was growing. You got to sometimes 50 people. And were you starting to do away weekends? When you get that big, was the Brasilia hash doing weekends away?
Yes, the first weekend away hash we had in 2019 in Pirenopoulos. It was nearly 40 people came with us. That was quite a sight because Pirenopoulos is about 2 hours away. It's a bit of a touristy town. And suddenly 40 foreigners, which mostly speak English and wear all these funny shirts running through the area, because some commotion.
Let's talk about the commotion. I've talked to some people in other parts of Brazil that have had some white powder events. Have you had any white powder run-ins?
No, not white powder.
Okay.
And I know Rio had a big scandal over there. It was told that people are poisoning the animals. What we try to do when we run in the city, we use chalk. And outside of the city, we use flour. We had a couple of interesting incidents. Inbred Fred and I, we set once trail in the government sector. Inbred Fred ran after me and said, hey, we have to stop. There's people with guns behind us. There were security guys. Another time, again, Inbred Fred, we had to get out of the park. So we climbed the fence. And I was over already. Inbred Fred was literally sitting on the fence. The security guards came and said, you can't do this. You have to go. But that's the worst we had, really.
So we'll talk about all the stuff that happened with PanSoAm and the cooperation that you had from that. I want to talk about the whole genesis of that event, but also the culture there, no white powder events, in and out of the city. You know, Brasilia is a giant city. Were you ever featured? Did the public take notice of the hash? Does anybody know? How did you spread the word of the hashing there in the early years?
In the early years, we have a Facebook group, Living Brasilia Forum, which is for expats, mainly diplomats. We used a lot of advertising in there. I printed business cards and we gave, every time I heard somebody speaking English, I went up, sorry, here's a business card. We never were featured in the media. We tried before the event. We sent press releases out to the local media and the international media. They were not taking any interest because I think they don't know what we are. No, it's very hard to get to spread the word around that.
Well, let's talk about the whole origin of the PanSoAm, the idea for it, how you and the people that helped you had a great helping committee decided to take it on, and Hazukashi's role. How did it all begin for you?
I was contacted by Hasu, and I know the name and I've heard it. I saw it on Facebook and I knew he was a bit of a celebrity. He came first to Rio or São Paulo, then here. We hit it off straight away. Now he's an old hasher. He started 2 years before me. We both love the hash. And I showed him Brasilia and he said to me, why don't we do the Pan South America hash here? There was never Pan South America hash. And I said, yeah, why not? Always sounds like a good idea. Huh? Yeah, why not? You can do this. It's easily done. That was the time, I think, 2022, when Colombia failed miserably, when Trinidad failed miserably. She said, if you do this, it has to be a good one. We have to get the faith back into the Americas for the hashes. We originally planned it for 2023, but by the end of 2022, we had elections here. So I went to the tourism office and said, hey, we want to do this. The guy said straight out, yeah, I don't know how the election will end up. If Bolsonaro loses, I'm out of a job. I'm not doing anything anymore. And then we tried again 2023 at the beginning, and there were all new people and they were not interested. We moved it then to 2024. We tried it again with the tourism office and they were very excited. Yeah, we want to do this. We want to get the people in here. Unfortunately, they didn't help us in the end at all. No, we put a proposal together. I don't know if I can show this to you here. PanSoAm. It's like a business plan where we outlined through the hash house areas, through Brasilia hash house areas, in international hash events, web press run, target attendees of the hash, in creating international ambassadors for Brazil. 14 different pages where the difficulty is nobody knows about the hash. So we had to really tell them what is the hash and what do we want to achieve with it. And a lot of our sponsors, when they heard that we want to create ambassadors for Brazil and Brasilia, they jumped on board and said, hey, this is fantastic.
It's interesting. You believed and wanted this government support. It turned out they didn't contribute, but do you think it was still the right approach?
I think it was the right approach. We sent out a feedback form now after the event, and we collected a lot of data, which we will give to the organizers of the next PanSouth America hash, where they can prove, hey, look, so and so many people have never been in Brazil, have never been in Brasilia, to foster that support. Here in Brazil, unfortunately, is you have to find the right people which support you. If a person is not interested, they say, yeah, we help you. But
well, you have some background after doing paintball. You've gone on to do other things. How did this line up with your personal skill set to go approach people who knew nothing about the hash and ask for sponsorship help? How comfortable were you in that? And what was your personal skill set that made a difference?
I was very comfortable because after I sold my paintball field in 1999, I used to work for the Olympic Committee for the Olympics 2000. So I learned a little bit how to control crowds and organize these things. Then I became a marketing manager for a very big company in the automotive industry in Australia, where I really learned how to market things, to promote things. I was setting up conferences, event shows, trade shows, and also the marketing material. And so I learned that my skill set was how do I sell something what people don't know and make it palatable for them.
Let's talk the countdown to the event. At what point did things start to get, this is real? Anybody on the committee panic? Of course, you had a lot of early interest. In every event, there's people who register who can't pay. There's people who pay, can't come. What was the timeline when the stress level got up and high?
The day we made the decision, this is going to happen, I spoke with a girl in Australia. She put a really nice web page together for us. Once we published that with a rough outline of the event, that's when a little bit of, not a panic, but anxiety set in. And then in October, November last year, I was going to all these event places to look for a space for 500 people. By then, we wanted still 500 people. We went to these clubs and they said it's 10,000 reais a night, plus tables, plus electricians, plus staff, blah, blah, blah. That would have cost us about 50,000 reais for both nights. Lucky from one of our committee members, she knew a guy which does the barbecues, the Gaúcho barbecues where the meat hangs over the fire. I asked the guys, do you know a place? And they said, yeah, I know one, but I don't know if it's suitable. It's all outside. You have to organize everything yourself. And so let's just go there. And I met the manager, Fernando, and he's an ex-army guy, and I put a proposal for, and he said, yeah, you can have this space. And we had to hire 3 barbecue places. In the end, we were there. We took the whole place over. And it was very reasonable. I don't want to say how much. Or you want to know how much?
Yeah.
3,000 reais for the whole weekend.
Oh my, so that's $600.
Yeah. I had a debrief with him, and he said to me in the debrief, said, I liked that you created ambassadors for Brazil and Brasilia. We are closed at night anyway, so no skin off our nose. And he supported us so much, it was unbelievable.
And one thing to mention to people who haven't been there, haven't thought about this, you did an outside venue and it could have held 500 people. It could have held more. And there was no chance of rain. At that time of year, Brasilia, the weather, my wife couldn't go on the trip. And when I registered and said, oh, do you know what the weather will be in Brasilia? And she said, shut up. Before.
Yeah,
That was beautiful.
It's a crazy time here. From about May to October, we have no rain. And if we have rain, that will come about July, August. We call it chuva de manga, the mango rain. The mango trees get water for the fruit. But otherwise, no, very dusty. It's very dry. Sometimes we have a humidity of 8% only, which is a problem for a lot of people, but you get used to it.
And we'll talk about the event and then go to some of the pre-loops and post-loop things. In Brasilia itself, we started on Wednesday and went on through Monday. So it became a 4, 5, 6-day event just in Brasilia. One of the runs, everyone wore their event T-shirt. How did you come up with the design for the event T-shirt?
I wanted to reflect Brazil. So the colors, yellow, blue, and green, that's Brazilian colors. What's the most famous bird in Brazil? It's a toucan. Then in the stripe here, we have the symbols of Brasilia with the hash foot in. So we say, hey, we are hashing through Brasilia. And in the back, you have then the PanSouth America.
And you customized the backs of some shirts. There was some said hasher, some said hair. What else did you?
We had mismanagement, hair, hasher, trailmaster, PH3, hashmaster. Then we gave our sponsors had their business names on the back. We thought about personalizing it, but we made 170 shirts. So I thought we leave it with hashers to make it easy.
Yeah. Let's talk about the sponsors then. How important were the sponsors, and did they come through for you? Were there any last second panics with them?
Last second panics with the sponsors was up to Sunday. Yeah. You never know how they react to certain things. Okay, let's talk about the sponsor. The first sponsor we really got was the IVD Swine Bar, Eduardo from the Swine Bar, where we had our first event. We are having our weekly Stammtisch there every Wednesday night. And he's very supportive. It's one of the best bars in Brasilia. He approached us and we said, Eduardo, we like coming here, but your food is expensive and your beers are expensive. We said, what beer do you want? Or Spaten? I organize you Spaten. So we are the only group which gets Spaten in there. And we got a 20% off for the food. So he really supported us. I don't know why, to be quite honest, because he's so popular. Every time you go there, the bar is full. But he just likes the hashers. He just likes us.
It's a good crowd. And when you bring in this many people to Brazil, not only are you creating ambassadors, you're creating an influx of commerce. Even though we're a small group, there's a lot of money getting spent. Yeah.
We drank him empty of beer that night. I told him, buy plenty of beer, but he ran out. And again, to show how good Eduardo is, he had the Spaten beer there. Once that ran out, he came with the Colorado beer, and the Colorado is a much more expensive beer, but he sold it for the same price.
Oh, great. Who were the other key sponsors? What sponsored were essential for you?
Cruel Cerveceria, the beer guy. Again, we got the contacts through Mark. Mark is, by the way, a guy from New York. He's an art dealer. He had some really fancy ideas. He never hashed in his fucking life, so he never saw the group. So he wanted to get champagne and live paintings and everything. And yeah, okay. But he said, hey, I know Cruel's beer. It's a very good artisan beer. It's a small brewery here in Brasilia. And he met the guy. And again, he said, okay, what do you need? And he said, I need beer Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the events, for the trails. He also liked the idea, ambassadors to Brazil and Brasilia, exposure for him. And I still have it remembered when by the end of the meeting, he said, yeah, I support you. And I said, okay, so how much do you want for the beer? He said, you get it. It's for free. Now, I like you guys. I like the event. And he came through with it. And that's something, because I said before, up to Sunday, I was nervous about the sponsors. A lot of people promise you things, and then they just don't come through with it. But they all came through. The third sponsor we had was Mr. Brasilia. You know him, Billy, the tour guide. He said, I will help where I can. He came through with the logistics, with the transportation. He put on special tour guide buses for the hashers with a very low price. I can tell you that. It's normally not so cheap. And he enjoyed the event. And then we had this Duval, the cachaça guy, which supplied Eduardo with the caipirinha, the cachaça. He was essential too, and he had a ball. He said, I never met so many weird people, but I love them all.
It was a very Brazilian event, very cultural event. You had the Brazilian fight dancing, caipirinha,
Yeah.
And performers. Mark got on his first hash that weekend at the Red Dress Run, I think was his first hash.
That was his first hash, yeah.
We did a lot of neat things. There was a drone at one point.
That's another person we supported a lot, Blue Media. We hired a videographer. I spoke with Hasso about it and said, why don't we make a documentary out of this? I searched the internet and all the hash material is pretty old, so there's nothing recent there. I met the videographer and he said, yeah, I'm in it. I do it. So he came Wednesday night, he came Thursday night, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He was on all the events. And if he couldn't come, he sent some other people in. He loved it. His replacement was a bit complaining because he's normally a wedding photographer. So he tells people what to do and he has some and he apparently complained to Hugo, these people are rude. I can't tell them what to do. They don't want to take group shots. And I had to walk 5 kilometers.
Great. Well, I'll see if they want to come back next. What will be the timeline of getting all that footage organized?
I spoke with him last week. He said 2 to 3 weeks for what we are doing is he has 1 terabyte of footage. So he has to look through all of this and takes a while to put it together. What he's putting together is a 1-minute clip for the Instagram people out there, a 3-minute clip for all the Facebook people, and then there will be a 10-minute documentary with more interviews and everything. And that will be released 3-4 weeks.
Wow. Are you going to get the raw footage?
Yes, afterwards.
Okay. Yeah. If we have some other documentarians who are hashers, maybe they can do some more stuff with that for you too.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Billy, Mr. Brasilia. He's a great guy, very interesting, a historian. He's a long lifer in Brasilia, a historian, a tour guide, world class. He actually sub-hired, I think, the videographer to make his own documentary of his guiding. And he took us to many places in the city. The city is just astonishing. You around every corner is another piece of art, another building with historical significance. Of course, all the Niemeyer works. And we ran through some of those. And there were a couple places where the police were there helping. There was a very low presence. It felt like we were on our own. What was your negotiation with the security and the police forces? Where did that have to come in?
One of the reasons we approached the tourism office was to coordinate some sort of street closures for the Red Dress event. The Red Dress event was the only event where I was really worried about because red is the color of PT. PT is the ruling party here with Lula. Here in Brasilia, most people voted for Bolsonaro. Before the election, for example, I had a yellow T-shirt on and we were running on the Asia on the street, which was closed on Sunday. And people called me Fora Bolsonaro because I thought I was a Bolsonaro man because I wore a yellow shirt. So it's a very divided society here. And for me, running through the government sector in red dresses could be seen as a political manifestation or a demonstration. That was also one of the reasons we bused the people from the TV tower to the ministries, because we didn't want that they go through the bus station, very busy bus station at 5 o'clock. It could have been bully. So at the beer stop at the ministries, the police showed up and said, what is this here? Is this a demonstration? You're in a political thing in here? So Imre threatened, explained it really well. No, we are not a political thing. It's a social club. They're 80% foreigners. We just want to run from here to here. And the police then ask, okay, where's the beer stop? Where do you stop? And where's the end point? Where do you cross over? And they actually organized out of on their own that the crossings were secured by other colleagues from the police force. So I'm really thankful for them. They could have ended up differently with different cops, but it worked out, so it was fine.
And we did have a photo stop in front of the Justice Building.
No, that was the Presidential Palace.
Oh, the Presidential Palace, yeah. And
Yeah.
the police were there. That's where we did one road crossing. I don't remember if that was a false trail. Let's talk about the pre-loops and post-loops and the cooperation you got across all of South America, because it was a PanSoAm hash, so more than Brazil was involved.
Yeah. And I have to be really grateful to the kennels in Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, and Asunción. when we announced, hey, we're doing the Pan South America hash, do you want to do pre-loops and post-loops? They all said yes. Mahmoud in Sao Paulo did a wonderful job. Mirka and her team in Rio de Janeiro, I see that on the feedback forms. Everybody's just glowing about them, that they were taken care of. They were really welcoming. And the same with Asunción in Paraguay. I thought, who's going to Paraguay? But he still had people coming there and they had a great time. They all helped to make this event good because the post loops set the standard. And the people loved it. They came here, they loved it. They had post loops. I think in Brazil and with Paraguay, we did not only create one weekend, we created 3 weekends.
You were, of course, busy with all this, but you got to also travel before the event. You got a couple downs for your near $7,000 Uber ride you almost got in. But what were you doing right before the event? Did you get down to Rio or Sao Paulo?
Now, that was last year in Rio.
Oh, that was last year. Okay.
That was last year in Rio. They had an event on, so Brasilia hashers came down in force. And it was before the weekend, we met Just Lindo, and he has an apartment right in Copacabana Beach. And we went there afterwards, and he filled us up with Jägermeister and caipirinhas. And I just stumbled out of the hotel and went to an Uber and wanted to go to Brasilia. The hotel was just literally next block down. So unfortunately, one of the hashers saved me and said, this is your direction here.
I want to talk about the entertainment that you had too, because one of the funnest things was the fighting dance troupe that got hashers out there and invited them into and coaching them through to participate. It's a quintessential Brazilian activity. And how did you get involved with those? How did you contact and find them?
Again, that's when all the puzzle pieces fell into place. Originally, we had planned for a Japanese drumming group to come to the event. Now people might say, what has Japan to do with Brazil? The second biggest population outside of Japan is here in Brazil. Japanese really coined this country. Obrigado, how do you say in Japan? Thank you. So there's a lot of crossovers. Like in the South, you wouldn't think you're in Brazil. You have German cities where they still speak German. So unfortunately, they couldn't make it, but the person which organized it, he works at the Japanese embassy. He said, hey, I'm learning caipirinha. Would you be interested in the group? And that was 3 days or Friday. Yeah. And I said, yeah, no, why not? If they want to do it. So I contacted the group and they said, yeah, we want to come. I said, okay, how much does it cost? 500 reals and all the food we can eat. And they said, yeah, please come. And to be quite honest, they were the most popular entertainment.
Absolutely. It was interactive. It wasn't just stand around. It was stand around and watch, and then you almost you had to resist hard if you didn't want to get pulled in and become part of it.
Yeah, they were very engaging. I thanked them afterwards, and they said to me, no, it was an honor to be there. No.
You had 3 trails for the main event on Saturday. We all did the red dress together. But there were 3 different trails, 2 of them involving buses. How did all those logistics work out?
Worked out fine. When we planned the trails, we thought actually that trail number 1 would be the most popular one in the park. Trail 2 was in Jardim Botanica, the botanical gardens here in Brasilia, where we had to ask for permission to get the people in, which we got. And then the 3rd trail, the Ballbuster Trail, we thought, hey, who's going to do that? 15 kilometers up the hill to the TD Tower. But it was the opposite. The Ballbuster was the most popular one, and the park one, as you were doing the circle there, I think we were 17 or 18 people. But it all worked out. The Ballbusters had fun. I saw some pictures which were amazing where people just collapsed at the end because they were so tired. But not one complaint. No, all went well. Billy organized again the transportation very well. We had beer stations on the buses. Was a problem, I think, on Trail 3 because they couldn't really connect it. And I thought, yet nearly 50 people there and they're all beer drinkers and they don't know how to connect the keg. What's wrong with them?
That's great. I took a tumble on Wednesday night running. I didn't think enough that it was going to get dark, and I was front running and running through the rubble. I took a tumble, and I think fire in the hole, fell over, walking from the venue to the bus and
Yeah.
bumped her eye. Anything else happened to anybody else during the weekend?
I think somebody was a bit drunk and fell off the chair and sprained their hand.
It is not much, yeah.
But otherwise, no. There was one couple we felt really sorry for them. They arrived on Friday and she said to me, I think I'm going to have a corona test. You're both sick. We only saw them on Sunday. They said they saved themselves for us. So they didn't come to the events that ended up, they didn't have corona. So they could have come. But the only thing I know.
Yeah, they didn't feel so good. Some people will know them. It's Big Boar and Dr. PP out of Atlanta. And I think Big Boar felt really horrible and was coughing all night and didn't sleep. So he was sick and he did stay away, but a long trip for just the Sunday to get in. What do you think is the impact now? Apart from it's going to be hard to assess shorter term, except for the survey feedback you had. But what kind of jolt was this for Brazilian hashing and South American hashing and world hashing?
Firstly, it was the first ever Pan-South America hash here. And when Hasse was here 2 years ago and we talked about the event, our goal was always to revitalize the hash in South America. Nearly every country has a kennel, but they're very inactive. And they have the same problem we had 2016, only 5, 6, 7 people show up. Rio started really a year and a half or 2 years ago. When before Milker came, they were nearly dead. You always want to push the hash in a route. What I've heard from Hasu that Uruguay is excited again. The guys in Argentina are excited. In Chile, nobody from Chile unfortunately was here, but they saw what's happening here and they're excited. So we really hope that we restart the whole hashing culture in South America. For the Brasilia hash, I don't know. We have our first hash this Sunday. We had a committee meeting the Tuesday after the event where we spilled the beans and said, okay, what was good, what was bad. Everybody was happy. Let's see how many show up. The committee was really wonderful. Everybody was pitching in. Inbred Fred as a trail master with James did an amazing thing with the trails. They scouted 4 or 5 months ago to really make it exciting. Billy with the transportation, he was excited. Anna and Fernanda and Amit. Okay, some people did more, some people did less, but everybody could pitch in. Samantha with her jelly shots. Everybody pitched in where they could, and this is what a good team makes up.
Yeah, it was a lot of great things. We did have a couple hot days. Sunday, we were under a giant shade tree. So, the glorious sun was out all weekend. And it worked. It was stress-free being there as a tourist.
The thing on Sunday, we purposely finished up at this street party. So as Brazil is built like a bird on purpose, and the main road on the wings is closed on Sunday for the population. Most of the people live in apartments, so they want to create space for the people to go. And in 208, 209, where we were, that's where the locals meet. They have bands there, they have food there, they have dancing and everything. And this is again what we try to give to you guys, that this is Brazilia's culture. This is what we do on weekends. And I think the people liked it. So
what's interesting, I remember Thursday night when the Rio hash showed up, they were all wearing their yellow shirts. They all came into the bar at once, and there was this invasion of hashers and fairly young. Sometimes at international events, you're saying, oh my God, the average age here is retirement age. But South American hashers have quite a few people that are a decade or two younger than that.
Yeah, I'm the oldest one in our kennel here. We have people in their 20s, 30s. Same with Rio, same with São Paulo, us as John as well. Hopefully we will create a new generation of hashers.
What do you think about the new generation of leaders? You've been in charge. It's really successful. It's going strong. A lot of that has been you and some of the other regulars. But what about the next generation of really leading the Brasilia hash? Are they there? Are they going to give you the boot one day?
Maybe they give me the boot, but they don't call me the dictator for nothing. I try to give people leadership roles with, for example, a big shout out for the hashers, not trashers. We try to do that here. It really didn't work out, but I'm going to talk to that person again. I think we created some leaders now with this hash here, the inbred Fred. He hasn't been a lot hashes because his family is very busy. Hopefully he will come back. We'll see.
There are a lot of expats there. I met someone who only was able to come for Wednesday night, who lived in the very southern part of the country, a guy from Finland who I stayed in his house and hashed with 20 years ago. So for me, it was just a great reunion. It was a very international event. Do you know how many countries were represented in the hashers?
Yes, I put that in. We had hashers coming from 17 different countries and 47 from Brazil. But from the 47 of Brazil, 13 are from different countries.
Wow.
Plus one for Brazil, for Brazilians. We had 31 different countries represented here.
Oh, that's good. I don't want to jinx it or talk down about anything else, but this event was spectacular. It's going to be hard to imagine another place that has all the things that Brasilia has. There's great places to hash everywhere, but having that outdoor venue, having the perfect weather, having the sponsorship, having a safe location, this event was spectacular. And I'm very glad that I made it to the first one, because you can't be to them all if you haven't gone to the first one. What is the future in terms of time frame when you think the next host will be identified?
Hazukashi is now talking to the different countries here. Hopefully by the end of the year, we will announce the winner who is doing it. I'm not sorry that we set a high bar, because that's what we want to do. We want to show the best of the country and the best of our kennel. Part of the money we have over, if I may address this, we had 26,000 reals over, and half of that we are saving for the next event as seed money. So they will get 2,300 US dollars. And the other half we divided into two. One went to a children's charity. The other one will go to an animal charity, most likely in Rio Grande do Sul, where they have the flood problems. They have something like 15,000 homeless animals, and they have to be fed. The Escola do Cerrado, that's what we gave the money to. They were very thankful because they were about to close one of the buses down. They couldn't afford them anymore. And they said it was a present from God. So
I think most of your team, as of Sunday, did they shut down immediately? And then you had some follow-up work with sponsors and everything. What was the off-ramping for you and your team?
the team, we had the meeting on Tuesday, and I think they shut down then, really. I made it my priority to visit all the venue again, talk to the caterers, talk to the band, talk to the carnival performers, talk to the capoeira guys. I spoke with the beer guy yesterday. Some interesting stats on this. We drank 450 liters of beer. We had 40 liters of cachaça for caipirinhas. We had 25 bottles of vodka for the caipiroskas, and we drank 70 bottles of wine. It's
Wow.
not a bad thing with 140 people.
Yeah, a lot of that was happening at the hotel at the registration desk. There were,
No, mostly at the parties, but
yeah, mostly, yeah.
I didn't calculate the caipirinhas we drank at the register. I don't know how much that was.
Yeah. What about the logistics? You were able to make use of another website to inform people. The information flow was really good. It's a Brasilia for Dummies.
Yes, Brasilia for Dummies. This is a website I actually created 3 years ago. If you look at the website top left, it said powered by the Brasilia Hash House Harriers. When you come to a city like Brasilia and you don't speak the language and you don't know the place, it can be very daunting to find certain things. I always heard the same thing. Where can you find certain cheeses? Where can you go to an English-speaking doctor? So I thought, why not make a website? Contacted that girl in Australia I know, which built websites. And she said, I never did it like this, but let's do it. We have now over 500 recommendations. And on this website, we hung the Brasilia, the Pan South America hash in. So yeah, website I think worked well.
One thing I thought was very neat that you did, you had a banner that you had everyone signing at registration for the event.
Yes, that was the Carnival flag. Here in Brazil, when you have the Carnival groups, they have their own flag. The leader of that group said to me, hey, do you have a flag? And I said, no. So we made one up. and he put all the fancy stuff around it. Because it is the first Pan South America hash, I thought it would be nice if everybody would sign it, which comes to the event. And it's still sitting here. We have to find a way to send it to Malaysia, to the hash museum, but it will arrive there sooner or later.
Now, along with a t-shirt, no doubt.
Yeah.
What's next? Is the rest of the year clear, or are you just hashing? Any other travel you're doing, or any other hash events around that you're going to get to?
The normal hashes will come in. I have to do a little bit more work on my Brasilia for Dummy website because I neglected it the last 3 months. And I have to look after my wife because she hardly recognized me when I came back home. So I was very busy. No travel plans. My birthday is coming up. Me and my wife, it will be going in some exotic places. She likes to do that. And just, no plan really to go to an international hash event at the moment.
Cool. I'm sure you got lots of emails and messages and thanks. The WhatsApp groups were buzzing with thanks to you and everybody on your team. I'll just say it again. It was a great weekend. If I hadn't fallen over, I wouldn't have a souvenir from the Pharmacy Road. That's all that happened there. Yeah, great, safe place. Personally, I'd be happy to go back there for another event anytime. I know we need to spread it around and explore the rest of the continent, but it was just a great weekend.
And it's not only us. You guys made it too. No, that's was the whole group.
We look forward to seeing the movie soon. We'll get a 10-minute documentary coming out and some clips. I was wondering if this came up. Did the Brazilian hashers get anything? Did the outside culture contribute something to hashing in Brazil? Any customs?
Yeah, the circles were a bit different to what we do. We have more charges. So that's actually one of the complaints we got from other hashers, that there were no charges at the circles. The ones I spoke to since it's over, they loved it. They got really more energy. They loved to see all these wonderful people. They made good friendships. It was, for most of them, it was the first big event ever. So it was good for us.
That's something that's often stressful for locals and people working on the event, but it seemed pretty relaxed. I got to say, you had a pensive look. You seemed like you had a lot to worry about the whole way through the weekend, like you said, all the way through Sunday. That you never know.
Yeah, I felt that this event is on my shoulders. I promised Hasu will be good. I promised everybody, really, we make an awesome event. And we are in Brazil. Lots can go wrong. So unfortunately, I couldn't do any of the trails. I was always somewhere else. I was at the venue making sure that everything is okay. That's just part of being.
You are a control freak, and that worked out well. Even at the Red Dress Run, tried to get you to let somebody else pour beer. You were involved in everything the whole weekend, going strong. Never looked tired. And anyhow, that was
I'm a control freak, and I admit it. Sorry.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for everything.
Thank you very much, and happy hashing around the world.
You ought to look in the calendar. All these people from around the world will get a chance to thank you, and you can have a relaxing trip if it coordinates with your travel. Yeah,
I will do it. One of the in Brazil is flying outside of the country is very expensive for us. Okay, thank you very much. On.
I hope you enjoyed getting to know a little bit about Opulence, the GM of the first ever PanSoAm, the first ever Pan South America hash. On. To close the circle, here's the hash anthem sung by Mother Hash.
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for